I'm Casey Kasem. Radio plays them, radio and records ranks them, and we count them down on Casey's Top 40. Our third debut is by one of the hottest new bands in England right now. How hot? Well, the readers of 3 different English music magazines voted them among the year's top 5 acts. Rolling into the countdown at number 38, here's the band Jesus Jones with Right Here, Right Now.
Number 30.
Leaping 8 notches, here's this week's biggest mover. It's an upbeat look at all the political changes in Europe recently, from the crumbling of the Berlin Wall in 1989 to the lowering of economic barriers scheduled for next year.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem on Casey's Top 40. Well, now we're up to the first American hit for a hot new band out of Britain that really knows how to cut corners. The group is called Jesus Jones, and just a few years ago, like a lot of new bands, they were signed by a small independent label that didn't have a lot of money to spend on their career. That label, based in England, was called Food Records. And when they signed the band, the people behind Food Records told the guys in Jesus Jones to go out and do their best, as long as they didn't spend any money doing it. Well, that meant in order to do their first single, the 5 members of the band had to do a lot of scrambling around. They managed to borrow a studio and find a producer and engineer who'd work for free. The only thing they couldn't scam was the cost of the tape and some of the instrument rentals. In the end, that first single, titled Info Frico, wound up costing them all of £250, about $500 at the current rate of exchange. And that's a small fraction of what most singles cost to make. They didn't even try to make a video for that song, but they did make a clip for their next single. And once again, they had to do everything they could to save money. So they went to a local arcade where there was a special video set up. For $40, you have 15 minutes to video anything you want. Mike Edwards, lead singer of Jesus Jones, says, quote, "Our video consisted of 4 minutes of us looning around having fun, and it was one of our best videos." Well, that video got a lot of airplay in England, and the arcade where it was shot got so much publicity, they gave the group back their $40 as a thank you for making them famous. So the video ended up being made for free. These days, the band Jesus Jones gets to spend a lot more on their records and videos, but they're still trying to have a lot of fun doing them.
It all started on holiday. That's what the British call a vacation, holiday. And Englishman Mike Edwards decided to take a few years off. He's a singer and guitarist. He grew up in the English town of Bath, and he played in a bunch of what he calls guitar bands there, nothing special. By 1988, he was fed up. So there he was with a few other musician friends on the beach in Spain, looking out over the Mediterranean Ocean. And as the waves rolled in, they had a vision. Mike told writer Rob Tannenbaum, "We decided to reinvent ourselves." So they came up with a band name by combining a popular Spanish first name, Jesus, or as we say in English, Jesus, and a typical English surname, Jones. And they mixed a wide variety of musical styles and added sounds of their favorite acts, cutting-edge groups like the rappers called Public Enemy and the alternative guitar feedback experiments of a band called Sonic Youth. And they'd sample sounds and create new ones too. But most of all, Jesus Jones didn't want to be like anybody else. Mike Edwards says, "In England, there's now a formula. Getting somebody to do a dance remix of your record, getting some hack to put a good beat underneath, it all brought back conformity. Jesus Jones does not want to conform to the norm."
Number 28.
Dropping 7 notches is the British band Jesus Jones with a hit that includes cleverly disguised samples from records by Simple Minds, Queen Latifah, and Barry White. It's all part of the fancy production work of the band's lead singer, Mike Edwards. Hi, this is Casey Kasem. Well, we had just one debut this week, and what a debut it is. It's called Real, 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 and it's by that hot new English band, Jesus Jones. How hot? Well, they raced all the way to number 1 with their very first single called Right Here, Right Now, and they were named Best New Artist at the recent MTV Video Music Awards. Now they've got to back up all that acclaim. To find out if Jesus Jones is for real with Real, 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 join us as we count down all the biggest hits in the USA right here on Casey's Top 40.
Casey's Top 40.
From Hollywood, this is Casey Kasem. Well, now we're up to the latest hit for a super hot band from England that's using sampling like no other act. In recent months, you've probably heard quite a bit about sampling, the way that some artists use bits of hit music by other artists in creating new songs. A classic example, for instance, is the way Hammer used a riff from Rick James' Super Freak in his big hit You Can't Touch This. Then there's the way that Vanilla Ice used a line from Queen and David Bowie's Under Pressure in his song Ice Ice Baby. One of the more popular games played by critics these days is figuring out just where a particular sample originally came from. But in the case of the sampling done by the British band called Jesus Jones, those critics would have to be absolute audio geniuses to figure out what the original music was. Mike Edwards, the band's lead singer and producer, is a giant fan of sampling. He says sampling has revolutionized music, and Mike is doing what he can to revolutionize sampling. He says, quote, "I do things like take a woman's voice from another song, play it 3 octaves below the original pitch, and then play it backwards until it sounds like nothing else on earth. Everything is distorted and changed, so it becomes part of my record and not just a collage of other people's music." Well, the result is a rock and roll sound filled with musical twists and twirls that belong to Jesus Jones and Jesus Jones only, even if it's built on notes originally played by others. Here's master sampler Mike Edwards and his band Jesus Jones. Their former top 10 is survey song number 26 on Casey's Top 40. It's called Real, Real, Real. Now we're up to the second top 10 hit for Jesus Jones, a band with a leader driven by insecurity. The motivating force for many rockers is a sense that what they're doing is exactly right. There's a confidence in their songs, in their singing, and in their playing, but not in the case of Mike Edwards, the leader of Jesus Jones. In a recent profile of the band in Musician magazine, both Mike and the other band members spoke about how, in spite of their success, Mike's never really sure of himself, and how that insecurity makes him redo things over and over again. One member said flat out, "The worst thing you can say to Mike is that he's right." He won't believe a word of it. According to the members of Jesus Jones, the result of all this nervousness is that Mike Edwards spends not just hours, but days in the studio doing just a few notes over and over again. And that's the reason they called their current album Doubt. Now that they have 2 hits under their belt, including the #1 smash Right Here, Right Now, you might think Mike's become more confident. But no, his insecurity has gotten even worse. Mike says, quote, "It's much harder getting things right now that we're doing well. The idea that we're getting a lot of attention means people will hear our mistakes. It's going to take a long, long time to make that next album." The critic from Musician magazine points out that Mike Edwards' insecurity doesn't work against the band. It's what makes them so special. He says there's a lot of humanity there, and you don't find that in groups fueled by too much self-confidence. 10 years ago this week, back in 1991, the #1 song on the pop chart was Right Here, Right Now by Jesus Jones. Who'll have the #1 song this week? We're on our way to the answer as the countdown rolls on.